John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast. John Anik and Kenny Florian.
I f***ing love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole. There are a couple of absolutely self-involved bullshit artists.
Here are your hosts, John Anik and Kenny Florian.
Headshot, bang.
All right, good to be back in your respective lives after what some would call a much-needed bye week. UFC right back to work this weekend to begin what can only be described as a busy month of September. We're glad that you have chosen to make us a part of it. It's episode 510 of the Anik and Florian podcast. Ken Flo and Brian Petrie alongside. As these episodes stack up, it almost sounds arduous, like 510, right? Yeah. Earlier this week, Ken Flo's like 509, but still going strong. BP, the NFL's back in your life this week. That's a big thing.
Yeah, big thing. All orange. Orange out on opening day, baby. We got the orange pants finally. Wearing all the orange uniforms. I'm excited. I see a lot of the orange selling in the streets already. It's Bengal season, baby. Can't wait.
Cincinnati Bengals taking on the New England Patriots.
Ooh, that's right. Yeah.
Potentially more on that coming up later. We do want to point you folks, though, to UFC Fight Pass, if we could, off the top of the show today. Anik and Florian Rewind for UFC 306 is done. We looked back at a spinning back fist knockout from Rob Dwalishvili against Raytheon Stotts, and then we looked at Sean O'Malley versus Petr Yan. And I would imagine most handicappers who listen to every goddamn word you two gentlemen have to say will be watching back O'Malley and Petr Yan and fights like that in advance of UFC 306. Speaking of which, Bri, Sphere Las Vegas. I trust you have not been in that building for a concert yet.
I have not, no.
One thing that I have been told is that if you are in Las Vegas, no matter who is playing there, you may hate heavy metal. You might like the Spa channel on Sirius XM like me. You might like fucking Watercolors channel on Sirius XM. But if heavy metal is going on at Sphere, you need to go. It seems like people are saying this venue is so spectacular that if you're in Vegas and somebody's playing there, you got to figure out a way to get in the building.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I tried to get tickets to go. I had the pre-sale code ready to go. You know, it's expensive for me to get out there and stay and all that stuff. And I looked up and it said just for some middle of the road seats, about $2,000. And I went, oof. That's pricey for your old boy, and I've heard they come down a little bit now, but it's a once-in-a-lifetime show. If I had the means and the time, I absolutely would go, and you're right. I've heard nothing but amazing things about it. I'm sure the UFC is going to knock it out of the park.
I mean, I don't think Ken Flo is going to sell a Rolex to be in the building. I don't know what a nosebleed quantifies. Yeah. It's about 15,000 people, Ken Flo. When tickets were first released, the cheapest seat was like $3,000. Prices have since come down a little bit. $800 to get in the building right now. And I'd imagine there aren't a lot of bad seats.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, that's a price to pay. I was going to buy two and it was going to be $6,000. So I decided to price out Rolexes and I can't afford those either.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? I don't imagine there's going to be a bad seat in there. It's one of those things for a fight like that on that kind of magnitude. I think it's going to be absolutely insane. Just the visuals, everything. It's going to be an experience unlike any other fight, I imagine. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been calling UFC fights since January 20th, 2012. I've never been assigned an event quite like this. I'm looking now at this 10-fight card, right? And just to peel back the curtain for you guys a little bit in terms of the pre-voiced elements, fewest fights that I'll ever voice because we have long-form, spectacular special features for every single bout on the main card. So I think some of the heavy lifting for me that has accompanied a lot of these pay-per-views is not necessarily going to happen on the front end. It's going to happen when I get to Las Vegas and when I sort of dive into the actual live event. But it's absolutely fascinating. Bri, have you given any thought to what it might be like, not for the fans, but for the professional athletes competing in this setting? And as I give you time to answer that question, let me just submit to you guys that I do know of one athlete that did express some hesitation to compete in this setting. And I wonder if you are fighting for the world title
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it's going to be a 25-foot octagon or a 30-foot octagon, right? But you're trying to minimize the variables and control as much of things as possible, Kenny. I know you got to sort of prepare to feel awful on fight night and still realize success, but I don't know, man. This is a variable not like the Apex or the global pandemic that you can't really prepare for.
Yeah, I think you got to have to do a bunch of shroom sessions for your practice. Right. You know what I mean? And just get used to that. If you could deal with that, then you can fight in the sphere.
Yeah.
I think psilocybin might actually be the answer. Yeah. It really is going to be interesting. But we spent a lot of time on this podcast during COVID-19 talking about the 25-foot octagon and Dominic Cruz talking about not having a crowd to sort of get him through what might have been a bad warm-up. So I do find it interesting. And I don't know the extent to which we'll lean into it, but I guess you just hope on the backside that there isn't something that affects things competitively, because we do have 2 undisputed UFC championships on the line. And just like you can talk about DC's last fight being at the Apex with no fans, Merab's title fight is not coming in Manchester, England. It's coming in this unique setting against Sean O'Malley at Sphere in about a week or so.
Can't wait.
Ken Flo, I saw you training with Cole Miller, and it didn't seem like it was martial arts.
Yeah. Well, it kind of is. I consider shooting martial arts, but you're right. It was not your traditional MMA training. I saw that Cole Miller, former 145-pound fighter in the UFC. I saw that he was doing a lot of shooting. I saw that he's teaching a lot of combatives. That's a lot of what I was doing. And I hit him up. I was like, dude, he's in Georgia, not too far away. I was like, if you're ever in the area, hit me up. Let's go shoot. And we were finally able to do that. And he's a fantastic shooter. It's awesome to link up with him and rip it up on the range. So it was fun, man. He's a good kid, man. I actually didn't know him that well. I was always friendly with him. And so to get a chance to kind of know him a little better, we were watching some UFC fight nights, and actually we're not a few fight nights, one fight night. It was live. That was cool. And then the next morning we woke up early and literally shot. So it was cool.
That's cool that you guys got to watch UFC fights together.
Yeah.
You guys share a bed or no?
No. Wife wasn't keen on that. Yeah.
I'm also glad you provided some background on Cole Miller, because as I mentioned his name, it did dawn on me that for much of our viewership and listenership, they probably don't know the name Cole Miller.
Cole Miller.
Cool. Any jiu-jitsu involved or no?
No jiu-jitsu involved. He came back. He was teaching. So he's like, dude, I did the most rounds I've done in a very long time. He was exhausted. And I don't know if my body would have been able to do it at this point, but I'd like to, I'd like to train with him.
You know that show Jackass in the movies, and obviously it's a huge thing, right? Yeah, jiu-jitsu's like that a lot. Like if I want to get injured and maybe like be in a sling for a brace, like I'm going to go train jiu-jitsu.
No lies detected.
Well, my twin brother and I, he has a knee injury, so we decided we were going to like grapple in the pool the other day and like see who could get double underhooks, right?
Sure.
What a terrible idea.
Who won? Who won?
If you really want to know, and I didn't intend to take this to the air, so I ended up winning because I had, and maybe he will, as he's running and listening to this, take issue with this, but it was my squeeze. So I had sort of him squeezed, and I had my head pressing up against his, and I had one underhook, and then I was able to get the other one. But before that happened, there were 4 total fouls. So I need him in the groin 3 fucking times, right? But
whatever it takes. Prison rules.
I didn't. They were all inadvertent. I mean, maybe fucking Chris Tognoni would have docked a point. More on him coming up later, by the way. He's not going to want to hear what I have to say later.
No.
But you know what this motherfucker did? Sorry, mum. Joint manipulation.
Oh, what, the fingers? What was he
My
doing?
thumb, bro.
Oh, dude.
Yeah.
Jay's playing.
Now, you can say, and he can say that was as unintentional as the groin strikes, but dude, this dude fucking manipulated a joint in the pool, and he got fucking face cranked. So
yeah, he fights dirty.
We gotta get this on video, dude.
That's what I was gonna say. We have the video of this. I had a buddy who used to do the pressure points, and there's one behind your earlobe right here. So whenever time you wrestle with him, he dig it. It's like, come on, dude, what are we doing here? Pressure points?
Yeah. I'm biting after that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, I do think Jay and I eventually will compete. Bri, are you getting the itch when you see guys like Oscar Willis from the Mac Life and Ben Davis go out there and
of course.
sign a big fight? Yeah.
The problem is there's just really no one my size. Like the MMA guru, who is a huge name, I've called out. He's a big boy. But, Ben Davis is the size of my lower calf, so it's like right now I'm a little heavy. I'm about 287. So we're on the heavy side.
Fight at 266?
I would be heavyweight for sure. Yeah.
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 You can't make 226, correct?
Give me some time, maybe. We're in the process of right now. We're doing some things. I'm down about 8 pounds. So we're doing some things right now that are kind of working. My body was kind of betraying me for a little bit. So we're trying to mix some things up here.
What's Ben Davis? He's what it was like 88 pounds, 90. What was he looking at?
I think he's soaking wet 145, 50 pounds.
Okay,
I think.
All right.
Yeah, he's not a big kid.
I love you, buddy. I know.
I like Ben Davis too. He's not a big kid. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good human being, and he knows my twin brother well. I think they did some Anthony Pettis broadcasts together. But Oscar Willis and Ben Davis, I love you. I just haven't spent nearly as much time with you as I have spent with Oscar. Oscar's one of my favorite people in this MMA media world.
Yeah.
I love his content, obviously the Dan Hooker stuff, but just a really good dude who I've spent a lot of time with. So, I was just looking for Team Willis. Yeah, he's fought an amateur MMA fight, Oscar.
Okay.
has.
Oh, wow. Okay. Gotcha.
And he's tough. And I was just looking for some Team Willis merchandise to show my support, but I'll support Ben Davis as well. We're giving a little ink today on the Anick and Florian podcast, so to speak, as well. But Bri, I don't want you at 226. We'll find you an opponent at 266. Okay, we'll figure that out.
We'll get it. We'll get a big boy in there for sure.
All right. Well, NFL Week 1 is nearly upon us, folks. I know a lot of you are going to be betting Gilbert Burns and Sean Brady this weekend, but a new football season means new ways to get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook as well, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. And if you're ready to place your first bet, maybe try betting on something simple like picking a player to score a touchdown. How about the biggest underdog in Week 1, though? Your New England Patriots at the Cincinnati Bengals, Ken Flo. We'll get Petrie's thoughts on that noise shortly. But if you're ready to do a touchdown dance of your own, score big right now with DraftKings Sportsbook, the best place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code AFPOD. That's code AFPOD for new customers to get $250 in bonus bets when you bet just $5 and get 1 month of NFL Plus Premium on us. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/ftball. NFL Plus Premium offer available only to new and former NFL Plus subscribers. Additional NFL Plus Premium terms at nfl.com/terms. I mean, how many seconds is that spot, Cody? I rewrote it. I mentioned the Patriots and the Bengals, but I'm not sure a human being, without being sped up to 1.25 times speed, can read it any faster.
Killed it.
And that felt like 75 seconds. I don't know what to tell you guys with the disclaimer. Love you, DraftKings Sportsbook. I was on your application all morning long, but help a brother out. And my producer writes, it's a lot. Yes.
It's a lot.
It's a fucking lot. All right. We got a lot of business to attend to here, boys, after the bye week. We'll start with the pronunciation of the week. We got 2 files for you today. First fighter competed on season 32 of The Ultimate Fighter, was to make his UFC debut a couple weeks ago, but a last-minute medical issue forced his opponent, Nathan Fletcher, out of the fight, and now it shall be done 2 weeks later. And, Bri, we need to know how the announcers are going to be trying to say his name this weekend. We actually now are able to provide phonetics for you. Ooh. These are the correct phonetics, Bri.
It's not going to matter.
So
it's not going to matter. That's going to mess me up more.
Don't look at him.
Okay, I'm not looking at him because, listen, hopefully none of the professional broadcasters listen to me pronounce names because then they're in a world of trouble. But I'm going to go Zigimantas Ramaska.
So that's absolutely acceptable for broadcasts for the Anick and Florian podcast. You're the chief handicapper on this show, so you can pronounce these names however you got.
Great.
Well, please. Ken Flo, we're going to play the file, and If you're watching on YouTube, check those phonetics because they match exactly what he says.
Brian, say it again. Sorry.
Zigimantas Ramaska.
Gotcha.
My name is Žygimantas Ramashka. My name is Žygimantas Ramashka.
Get that.
So I'm hearing Ramashka instead of, I think you said Ramaska, but that's super close. Like he did all, I feel like he did all the tough stuff.
Yeah.
Well.
Right. Yeah. Emphasize the right syllables. Ken Flo, do you see those phonetics that we have added to the lower third there for the first time?
I do.
You see that shit, bro?
It's a lot, bro.
Shout out to our producer, Cody Merrow, for working hard to get that. But this is my process. And if you don't care about this, just fast forward the show 60 seconds. But for a name like that on paper reads Zygimantas for the first name, right? Mm-hmm. So those are my phonetics. And oftentimes our producer, Zach Candido or Michael LaPlante, will ask me to write phonetics for the entire card. Žygimantas Ramashka. And that's how you would write out the phonetics. Now, part of the reason why Bruce Buffer, my best friend, and I grapple so much about pronunciations is because the dude writes his phonetics in all caps.
Yeah.
Which then you don't know what fucking syllable to emphasize. Right?
I'll tell you what, that's a pretty fucking dope name, though. Zigimantas?
Yeah.
That's a cool name.
Yeah. All right. We also have the wrong Jew file, the incorrect Jew file, the accurate Catholic file, the correct Christian file. It's the wrong Jew. It's the correct Christian, the wrong Jew. He's out of China. Brian, I don't want to hear you. Cody. Yeah. Cody, let's play the file if you'd be so kind.
My name is Rangu. My name is Rangu.
I mean, what do you do with that as a? I mean, how do you say that, John? You always want to keep it to what the athletes say, but that's tough. Oh, look at this handsome. Hey.
My dog Maisie just made her Anakin Florian podcast debut.
It's beautiful.
So yeah, Ken Flo, I'm not going to get cute with like the wrong Drew, like Drew, right? But a lot of what I'm hearing is like wrong Drew and not wrong Jew. So I don't know.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a wrong.
I'm just saying, anyway. When I say to people, a lot of my job has nothing to do with fighting. This is a lot of what I'm talking about. All right, we are jonesing to analyze some fights for you folks. We have got 7 matchups to discuss today. Ovince St. Preux, UFC winning percentage 55%. Kenny Florian, UFC winning percentage 70%. Woo! Kenny Florian 12-5 as a UFC.
Zai.
Not bad. I always feel like he has more fights. 17 fights in UFC. I always feel like there's more.
That's a lot. It's a sneaky lot.
It is a lot, but I mean, I saw him from the Ultimate Fighter. He had the fight with Lieben that doesn't get counted. Everyone talks about his Drew Fickett fight before he got to the thing. So I feel like I've seen more of him when I haven't.
If you're going on Fight Pass to check out our Anakin Florian rewind in advance of UFC 306 Riyadh season Noche UFC, you could do worse than searching Kenny Florian. It's pretty easy to fucking spell.
It's great catalog,
right?
Great catalog.
There's some crazy things in there. His Sean Sherk fight.
Oh man,
did not lack blood.
I can still taste blood from that fight.
So bloody.
All right, main card opener. In the lightweight division, the aforementioned Rangu, minus 258, Chris Padilla plus 210. So, Bri, Rangu, 24 years of age. He had just turned 21 when he made his UFC debut. Goes 1-2, but after a submission loss to Ignacio Bahamondes back in 2022, in which he weighed in at 160 pounds, he then leaves the UFC, competes for UAE Warriors, then goes 3-0 on road to UFC Season 2. Now back in the big show against Chris Taco Padilla.
Yeah, Chris Padilla seems like a guy who just doesn't care, right? He's just like, I'm here, I don't care. But he's a fucking killer. He's nails. He really is. He was a huge underdog against James Lontop, came out rear naked choke. He has a lot of experience. He comes from a good camp with some confidence behind him. You got Rangu, who's 24 years old. He was in the UFC when he was like 22, 21. He's built his way back up. He has done all the right things. He is pretty well rounded, but I just don't think he does anything great. He's a pretty good, he has a good mixed bag, but there's nothing that stands out. I think Padilla, if he wants to get this fight to the ground or even stand up, I think he has the advantage. Again, Rangu getting steamed with that number. You're giving Padilla a plus 210 it's hard to pass on the underdog here, a guy who has fought really good competition outside the UFC before he even made his way in the UFC. I think he's earned his spot with kind of a weird record. I know a lot of people like the shiny undefeated records, but a guy like him, he's got a couple losses, but those losses are some pretty good stripes on his record, some good competition. So give me Padilla at that dog money, man. I can't pass it up.
Yeah, that's nicely done, Bri. Padilla's a finisher for sure. 7 knockouts, 5 submissions. Good pre-UFC schedule, of course. Kenny, a lot of people, certainly at the UFC PI in Shanghai, are still high on Rangu. Doesn't necessarily look like a kid in totality, despite the young face. I mean, he looks like a guy who's had 30 pro fights. He's 25-5. And you're like this, Padilla in 2008 was watching Spike TV 3 years after Ken Flo competed on Spike TV. And that sort of sparked the MMA interest in him, and now he's trying to go to 2-0 here in the UFC. Ken Flo, Padilla the dog, or Rangu the favorite for you?
Yeah, this is another tricky fight. This whole fight night, this is just great matchmaking here. I think Brian had a great breakdown. I can definitely see that. I think Padilla's best bet here in this one is try to take Rangu down and trying to get a submission or some kind of TKO here. I do think Rangu is probably going to be the better striker here, but with a lot of these fight nights, it's tough to tell, like, how good is this guy? And I don't know. I think Ranju's probably the cleaner striker. Certainly the younger guy does have some decent experience as well here. So yeah, I'm leaning towards Rangu here. I wouldn't place money just based on the numbers here because I do think Padilla is a live dog. But yeah, give me Rangu.
Every time I got pulled over, Ken Flo, in Metro West, Massachusetts, I was like, dude, you got the fucking wrong dude.
It was the Jason guy, right?
Dude.
Yeah.
Hopefully for you gamblers out there, you don't end up on the wrong shoe this weekend. I got to move on. I'm underslept, boys. It's been a tough few weeks. Also at lightweight on the main card, Trevor Peek, minus 125, taking on Yanal Red Fox Ashmo, who is plus 105. So Ashmo gave the lanky Sam Patterson a snooze in his emphatic UFC debut. That was at UFC 286. Then last July, Ashmo's on the wrong end of a unanimous decision loss to Chris Duncan. That was his first pro loss. Now he ends a near 14-month layoff against the inimitable wild man, Trevor Peek. Your thoughts?
Man, I love this square-jawed boy in Trevor Peek. He cuts his own hair. He's never not without his goatee. I love this guy, and he's trying to ease into his career. You can tell he's trying to make strides. He was this wild guy with limited cardio, but unlimited toughness. Now the cardio is starting to get there. The grappling's starting to get there. I've seen him spend some time with Dwayne Ludwig. He's improving a little bit, right? This guy's improving. Cody said something very funny in the chat.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. He's improving a lot.
Why
right?
don't one of you fucking share it with the audience?
He said, Cody
dude.
goes, dude looks like if Mountain Dew was a person.
It's very, very funny. It's very good. Cody nailed it. But listen, this guy, he's getting better. And you now look great against Sam Patterson. I mean, Sam Patterson has looked good since then, but that was a scary knockout, right? And then he didn't look so good against Chris Duncan. The Chris Duncan fight, he looked slow. He didn't look like he had enough cardio. He didn't know if he had enough volume. The takedowns were coming left and right. He couldn't stop the takedowns. Trevor Peek isn't the best at everything, but the one thing he's going to do is he's going to be in your fucking face, and he's not going to quit. He's not going to quit. He's not going to get put out, or he might get put out, but he'll wake up and fight you again. He doesn't give a shit. This guy is a wild man. At minus 125, I love the low number. I love Trevor Peek in this spot here. I'm gonna take the goatee, beautiful son of a bitch.
And he's a lot like Mountain Dew, right?
Yeah.
Like every sip is trying to like kill your innards, right? Now I wrote code red because like when he said Mountain Dew, I'm thinking, what is Sam Patterson as a food, and I went sort of off kilter there, but code red Mountain Dew a little bit because Trevor Peek's got a little bit of the red.
That's the hardcore stuff, the code red,
his hair. But you called him Square Jaw Boy. I mean, I've taken your 3-name Jack to the airwaves. Yeah. I'm not calling the fights this weekend, but Square Jaw Boy is pretty good.
I mean, this guy's
Trevor Peek out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. Ken Flo. He's 29 years of age. He has alternated wins and losses in his 4 UFC starts to date. But he has, of course, with the forward pressure and everything else, entertained the masses every step of the way. He's just sort of an endearing fucking blockhead, is he not, Kenny? Trevor Peek, right?
Yeah.
But he did lose his last fight to Charlie Campbell. That was April 6th. Your thoughts on Trevor Peek and essentially pick him here?
Listen, if I could take 1,000 of my $1,000 and put this on like fight of the night, this would be it. Like the way I see it, the way that both of these guys fight, I think it's going to be fight of the night, or certainly one to watch for sure. Trevor Peek is an absolute beast, man. Like, unlike the yellow number 5 in Mountain Dew that kills you slowly, this dude wants to kill you as quickly as possible. Like, he's a maniac. He wants to get in your face and just throw 1,000-piece combination until you're sleeping. And you gotta love it. And it's not the prettiest thing, but boy, is it dangerous. And he is not going to be afraid to do this against Ashmo, who also has knockout power, who's not going to be afraid to trade in the pocket. So I think for those exchanges, while it lasts, this is going to be very fun. I think Ashmo's probably, if he wants to take a safer path in this fight, I think he should look to try to take Peek down. This is another close one. I think Ashmo is probably the more technical guy, and I think that's probably going to be the case for most of the guys that Trevor Peek goes against. It doesn't mean that Trevor Peek can't beat you, though. Sure. Pace, power, durability. These are all real factors that can win you a fight and has been very successful for Trevor Peek. So this is a tough one. I'm leaning towards Ashmo, who's a little bit of an underdog here. But man, this is going to be a fun one.
Most people don't watch TV because they're trying to be bored. I understand some people watch TV to help fall asleep, but you watch TV to be entertained, and Trevor Peek is entertaining, right? Yes. You drink Mountain Dew because it tastes good, right? When was the last time either one of you guys had a Mountain Dew?
Like 2 weeks ago. I don't drink coffee, so when I go to work and if it's a rough morning, I pop a top.
Dude, it's been years, but that was my favorite soda growing up. Like, I'd give me Mountain Dews, all of them. That and Mellow Yellow.
Do you ever have Surge? Remember
Showing
Surge?
My age.
Yeah,
Surge.
Our former producer, TJ DeSantis, has a Mountain Dew IV at his house that he just fucking plugs into his vein. No, dude, Mountain Dew does something to the taste buds, to be sure. Probably isn't necessarily great for you.
No.
Not unlike taking a Trevor Peek right hand. I mean, can we get him to be some fighter has to have the nickname Mountain Dew. I don't know who it is. Mountain Dew is a good nickname.
It is.
We got to keep this train moving, though, guys. Next main card matchup is at flyweight. Alessandro Costa minus 520, taking on number 11 in the world, Matt Schnell, plus 390. And I have to revisit this Chris Tognoni moment from Matt Schnell's last fight, because I'm not suggesting that Chris got away with it. And he did I went back and watched it today. He patted Matt Schnell on the chest in somewhat of a loving way, but he says to Matt Schnell after he gets flatlined by Steve Erceg, and I quote, "I'm not sure what was worse, the punch or you hitting your head on the canvas. You'll see it on the film." Eve Edwards, by the way, looking on in straight fucking astonishment, maybe looking for his 67th cage fight against Chris Tognoni. So when I think of Matt Schnell, heretofore, I'm sorry, but I think about that forgettable moment for the referee. Bri, as far as the fight's concerned, Costa is minus 520.
Yeah.
Schnell still has a ranking despite the one win in his last 5 fights. What do you think of the Fly guys here, BP?
Listen, I'm sure Tognoni, I mean, he's messed up. He messed up 2 weeks ago pretty bad. I mean, he's a person, he's a human being, but have a little decorum after a fighter got knocked out like that.
That was weird,
what are we doing? You don't need to say something like that. That guy just lost half his money and slammed the back of his head. Ugly knockout, and that was after coming off the Nicolau knockout as well. That's the knock on Matt Schnell is the chin. He's a very fast fighter. He has tendencies. He has habits. When he strikes, he kind of does this weird thing with his head. It's very predictable. He does have good boxing. He does have a good triangle on his back. And the Sumajari fight, unbelievable. One of the fights of the year. This is what this guy has. But man, his nickname is Danger, and he's put my wallet in danger because 5 times in his UFC career he's cast as an underdog. 5 times. And you giving me Costa, who is a good fighter, coming off a knockout win. However, a little unproven, right? Doesn't have a number next to his name. It's going against Matt Schnell. Yes, he could easily knock out Schnell. Schnell 3 knockouts in a row. But when you're hanging this big number on me, I'm taking Matty Schnell here. I'm going the underdog. The dogs are barking for me. I don't know how he gets it done. I just feel like it's going to be one of those comeback wins that he pulls out a lot of the times because he is very crafty when he gets a neck or something like that. But give me the Louisiana boy, Matt Schnell.
Ken Flo, Alessandro Costa trains under Francisco Grasso and under Diego Lopez, who will be in his corner. He also corners Diego Lopez. It's a huge number, but it was a big win, of course, for Costa back in Rio at UFC 301 in May over Kevin Borjas. Got the stoppage there. And, I think for more reasons than one, he's a 5-1 favorite here as he tries to take Schnell's number 11, Ken Flo. What do you have for us on this one?
Yeah, agreed. I think, Costa's one of these guys that, migrated from Brazil to Mexico to train with that team along with Diego Lopez. And, those guys are some of the best coaches in the world. I think that they've done a tremendous job. And Costa's, last finish by leg kicks, that was nasty. I mean, it was brutal to see, just relentless, unforgiving, accurate, precise, like all of those things. So I think that this is a tough one for Schnell, who, as Brian pointed out, has a lot of skills. There's no question about it, but his chin is questionable, and sometimes his decision-making in real time is questionable. So he's got to be on point to win this one. I do think he's capable of winning, but I got to lean the way of Costa. I think, the best way to play it is probably what Brian's talking about. Go with Schnell for an underdog pick or go with Costa with some kind of a finish because I think he can get it done with the submission game or with his KO ability. Has hit things like flying arm bars and fight. The guy is very skilled, and I'm curious to see how he goes here against Schnell because although Schnell has lost a few, I think if you can look good against Schnell on a technical level, I think it proves that you belong to be in the UFC and that you can go much higher as far as ranking. So give me Costa here.
All right, next up in the featherweight division, the streaking mean machine, Steve Garcia, minus 185. Kyle Nelson is plus 154. So at this time in 2022, Steve Garcia was 1-2 in the UFC. He was essentially fighting for his job against Chase Hooper. Now he's won 4 in a row. All by stoppage, knockout, or TKO, Brian. Now exactly 7 weeks after his last TKO, steps in for the rank Calvin Kattar against Kyle Nelson. So a huge fight in the budding career of Jackson Wink, Steve Garcia. He's about 2-1 here. BP, what do you have?
Yeah, I love that he's staying active, Steve Garcia. After his last win, he started doing a lot of interviews, and I've seen a lot of clips, and he wants big names. He wants the big fights, and this is a good way to do that. Stay active, stay on the radar. He's fighting Kyle Nelson, who's tricky, man. This is a guy who's an awkward fighter, a pressured fighter, tough, had to run UFC, got dropped. Now he's 3 in a row currently in the UFC. And he's tough as nails. He's coming off a big knockout win over Bill Algeo, who's no easy task. But I just think Steve Garcia just has something about him. His striking, he has 88% takedown defense. I think he's got a lot of tools. And I think early on, the 1-2 start that you talked about, I think it was about a confidence issue. This is a young guy who maybe was a little shaken by some of the things he got knocked out in that rattled you. I think he's calm and collected now, and he goes out there and he realizes how good he is. He's feeling himself a little bit, and I think he is a superior striker to Kyle Nelson. I don't think it's going to be a walk in the park, and there's not a lot of real room on this card for me to go all in on somebody. But if I'm going to go on anybody, it's going to be Steve Garcia. I think the kid's going to get it done. I'm all in on the meme machine.
Steve Garcia, minus 185 right now, midway through fight week on DraftKings Sportsbook. Ken Flo, Kyle Nelson also coming into his own, or so it appears. Brian mentioned the 3 straight wins. And while this fight may be on paper not as big as the one he had against the number 9 ranked featherweight Calvin Kattar, still a huge spot for the Ontario native to try to end Garcia's winning streak here at 4. Kenny, what do you have on the featherweights in this featured attraction?
For sure. And I think Kyle Nelson, has a path to victory here. I don't necessarily think it's on the feet. While he does have some power and has proven that he can KO guys, I do think that Garcia is just going to be the better striker here. I think that he just way smoother. He's faster. He's a little bit more accurate. Kyle Nelson kind of has a throwback style where he kind of has that traditional shell and then kind of will block and then kind of return. So way more basic, doesn't look as pretty on the feet. His footwork is a little bit basic. but he is dangerous. And I think he's really good actually in the clinch. And we saw that in the Algio fight, has awesome knees and elbows from the clinch position. I also think he might be the better guy on the ground when it comes to positioning. So I think that's what he needs to do here. Get Garcia on his back, control him there, chip away with ground and pound, see if he can get a TKO. But I think Garcia is, he's long. I think he knows how to engage at the right time. Sometimes he's a little reckless, so he does have to be careful there with Nelson. Be the more technical fighter, and I think he wins this. I like Garcia here in this one against Nelson.
Nice.
All right, nicely done. We'll go right back to Ken Flo here on the co-main event in the women's flyweight division. Number 8, Natalia Silva, minus 298, the betting favorite, taking on former world champion, 6th-ranked Jessica Andrade, who is plus 240. So Andrade seemingly had a major falling out with Master Fagundes, Master Paraná, over money. Worth reading about if you're so inclined. But as to the matchup, Kenny, the 27-year-old Natalia Silva is the lead here. She's the near 3-1 favorite. She's 5-0 in the UFC. Decision Viviane Araújo back in February. And now I guess we'll see what her relative level is at against the former champion, granted up 10 pounds here at 25. But what do you make of Silva here against Andrade?
You know, as a fighter, you kind of want to just go in there and train and fight. You want to take away as much drama as possible. We've seen a lot of fighters affected by that. And when you see something like this, like some kind of drama outside of the cage where it's about money, this could be extremely draining on you. So I'm curious to see how Andrade comes out here because sometimes it doesn't seem like she has that same kind of passion and energy during some of her fights. If she brings that, man, she could beat someone as good as Natalia Silva. Now, Natalia Silva has talent for days. One of the most talented fighters in that division, no question about it. Her striking is phenomenal. It's pretty to watch. It's exciting. It's entertaining. Sometimes on the ground, though, she makes some decisions or she has some lack of movement that is very concerning. And this is especially concerning against someone like Andrade, that if she's on her game and utilizing that powerful TKO ability on the ground, she can get taken out there. So I still am waiting to see just how good Natalia Silva is as a mixed martial artist, as a complete fighter. I'm still waiting on that. I do think Silva has the advantage here. I'm picking Silva here, but she does need to be careful on the ground and with her takedown game here. Defensively has to be on point, but as a striker, she has proven herself. I think she's legit. So this is going to be one of those fights that I think is going to be a big time. This is a way to prove herself here even more. So, but I like Silva, ton of talent. Give me her.
Nicely done, as usual. Bri, I think you have to assume that Andrade will be urgent. She has talked about maybe some of the financial issues. She has won 2 fights after what was sort of a memorable 5-fight run in 2023 in which she lost 3 in a row. But she's responded in kind, right? 2 straight wins. Stopped Mackenzie Dern to UFC 295, then the win over Marina Rodriguez at UFC 300. Now another Brazilian in her bracket. It's Natalia Silva. BP, what do you have?
I mean, this is a stinky rat line. What is going on with this line? I don't understand this at all. Natalia Silva is a fantastic prospect. She's 5-0, but she hasn't fought anybody. Now, I know it's going to be hard to compete with Andrade's record and who she has fought, the competition he has fought at 115 or 125. Not many people match up, but hanging plus 240 on Jessica Andrade is crazy. Coming off 2 fights. Now, is this line set because of what's going on with the financial situation? Andrade tends to sometimes go in there and it does have a flat performance. That has happened, but I think if it's a stand-up, I think Silva is a little more cleaner and slicker, but Andrade has sledgehammers. She has fucking hammers, and she does not slow down. She averages 100 to 150 punches per fight. She landed 90 her last fight out against a very good striker. And I want to see the old slam Andrade come back. I want to see some slams in there because, like Kenny touched on, I think if Andrade is on top, I think she has the big advantage over Silva. Silva's still a little unproven to me. I think the line's way out of whack. I'm going to take Andrade at plus 240.
All right, that brings us to the welterweight main event at the UFC Apex this Saturday. Number 8, Sean Brady, minus 185. 6th-ranked former world title challenger Gilbert Durinho Burns, plus 154. So, Brian, we'll lead with you here. Sean Brady, the favorite, 16-1 as a pro. only lost to Bilal, remember the name, Muhammad by TKO. Since he's only fought once, so inactivity and injury have been part of the narrative, but he submitted Kelvin Gastelum, and that was his last effort last December. First start of 2024 for Sean Brady comes in a main event, and he is favored to beat Gilbert Burns. How do you see it playing out?
Yeah, I'm low-key excited for this main event. I think it opens up a lot of doors at 170. Gilbert Burns is such a likable guy. Yes, he's 38 years old, but he still has some left in the tank, and he's an exciting fighter. He's going to match up well with a lot of people. Sean Brady, to me, is still this unknown guy. He's still this kind of, has he proved himself yet? Yes, he's got to win over Chiesa. Yes, he's got to win over Gastelum. Those are great, but he doesn't fight enough. He gets injured. He gets certain things pop up where it doesn't happen for him. And I think he's a little soft in the stand-up. And what I mean by that is he likes to throw stand-up to set up takedowns. He doesn't like to engage in the pocket. He likes to throw his same combinations, and then I'm going to press you against the clinch and try to take you down. Not many people have willingly taken down Gilbert Burns. That just doesn't happen. Damian Maia is the last guy to go to the mat with him, and Damian Maia is a fucking G. Sean Brady, though, that's his game. He knows no other way. So I'm really curious to see what it's going to be like against a guy as high level as Gilbert Burns. I mean, Bilal Muhammad, who Sean Brady fights similar to Bilal Muhammad, not the level, but Bilal takes everyone down. He didn't take Gilbert down. He pieced him up over those rounds, right? And I think that's what Sean Brady is going to have to do, but I don't think he has that in his toolbox. I think he's going to want to take Burns down. And I think when it gets to the third or fourth round, where you're heavy wrestling and you got all those muscles and you're wrestling heavy and you're breathing hard, and then you got to stand in the pocket and exchange. Are you built for that? I don't know if Sean Brady's built for that. Gilbert Burns has proven he's built for that. Look at the Khamzat Chimaev fight. Look at all his fights. I mean, the Usman fight as well. He dropped Usman within a second. The guy has world-class jiu-jitsu and he has power on the feet. The only thing slowing me down is loading up on Gilbert Burns is he is 38. That's the stupid little betting thing in my mind. He's 38. Those guys, over 35, they win percentage, whatever. Throw that all out, though. Plus 154 on Gilbert Burns going 5 rounds against a guy like Sean Brady. To me, who's unproven, I'm going to take Gilbert Burns.
Kenny, you never know a fighter's relative health going into a fight. Gilbert Burns made a quick turn to face Bilal Muhammad at UFC 288, but Bilal was actually the guy that went into that fight on one wheel. Since Gilbert Burns has fought Jack Della Maddalena, that was at UFC 299 back in March. One thing you never have to worry about as a Gilbert Burns bettor, even if you don't know about his relative health, is the work ethic. Like, this dude's the hardest worker in the room. I mean, do you remember the charts that this man had in great detail in advance of the Kamaru Usman fight? So I understand he's 38. There are a lot of miles on the tank, but at least the work ethic is never going away. Sean Brady's 31. Kenny, I always include him in that group with Shavkat and Jack Della Maddalena and the guys who I think could potentially dethrone Bilal. Sean Brady the favorite or Gilbert Burns the underdog for you, Kenny Flory?
Yeah, I think that these guys are very similar. When you go back and watch the way that these guys fight, they share a very similar approach, their stance, their tendency to want to grapple. And I'd love if we could get someone not as sharp, who doesn't have a keen eye like Brian Petrie in the future, by the way, because he is spot on. When it comes to Sean Brady, his tendency is always to want to grapple. Not to say his striking is not effective. He's got a great left hook and he's got power. He can hurt you. And he doesn't look terrible as he's moving around. But it's all kind of fluff on the outside to disguise his entry into a takedown. That's what he wants. That's what he's most comfortable. And that's what we saw on full display against Kelvin Gastelum. Because guess what? In that fight against Gastelum, he was getting caught with some shots. And Kelvin Gastelum, while he's a dangerous guy on the feet, isn't the most sophisticated striker as well. And that's where I see Gilbert Burns able to land a lot of the same similar strikes that Kelvin Gastelum throws. Kelvin will blitz you. Gilbert Burns will do the same. They'll throw overhand shots. They'll land those. So you got to really be careful with someone like Gilbert Burns. And where Sean Brady struggles is with guys who throw combinations. Now, lucky for him, Gilbert Burns isn't necessarily that guy who's going to throw 3, 4, 5, 6 strike combinations. Now, he should, and I think if he's doing his homework, that's exactly what he should do. If you go back to the fight against Bilal Muhammad, that's where Bilal is so good. Even if he's not the most technical striker in the world, Bilal is going to get in your face. He's going to throw several strikes your way, and you got to be ready to deal with it. And then there's a takedown coming off of it if you're not respecting that. That's what Gilbert Burns needs to do in this fight. I think also that Gilbert is most likely the better striker, better grappler as well. And you look at, what Gilbert has accomplished in the jiu-jitsu realm. Sean, as good as he is, has not accomplished what Gilbert has done. The big question mark for me, like Brian Petrie, is going to be his age, and is also going to be, what is his motivation at this stage of the game? Does Gilbert feel like he's just taking another fight, or is he hungry to get back to the top? That is going to be the question for me. And if he doesn't have that against a hungry guy in Sean Brady, then he absolutely could get beaten here. But just based on their styles, the fact that they are very similar, I'm going to lean towards the underdog here in Gilbert Burns. I think that, 5 rounds is going to be interesting, but I do think Gilbert, if he executes the way that he can, should win this fight.
Smart guy.
All right. We shall see how it plays out. Gilbert Burns right now can be had plus 154 on DraftKings Sportsbook, where 57% of the handle on that main event thus far has been on Sean Brady. All right. Before we get into place your bets, we update the standings from UFC Fight Night. Cannonier versus Bohalyo. So Team Petrie led the dance by north of 3 bands. By the way, that's the new terminology. Or maybe it's not new, but that's what I guess the kids are calling $1,000.
Sure, band. Yeah.
Team Petrie led the dance by north of 3 bands going into UFC Fight Night. Cannonier versus Bohalyo. Once again, Petrie making the folks at home some money. $400 on Kaio. Paid you $183 and change. $300 straight on Gerald Mershart. Paid you $780 American dollars. And, so my math has you at plus 663.49 for the week.
Correct. Yeah, I whiffed on Angela Hill. I had money on Angela Hill, whiffed on her, but that's a correct update. Yep.
Year to date, 1182.78. Team Florian, profitable week as well. Ken Flo super convicted on Tabitha Ricci, $800 straight wager at pages 714.29. You did give a couple hundred back on Jared Cannonier, but you hit your big bet. It is plus 514.29 for the week. Ken Flo's deficit, though, 31.72 and 65 cents. All right, place your bets. It is brought to you by JohnAnick.com, where you can get 15% off your order with promo code NOCHE. One More Sleep, Una Dormida Mas are designed for UFC 306. Most detailed, thoughtful design from our guy, Joe Romero. It's unbelievable how much thought went into it in terms of the Mexican culture and all of the components to it. But that's not all. Anik and Florian podcast merch, Bilal Muhammad's Bully merch, new championship merch, 15% off everything at JohnAnick.com with promo code NOCHE. All right, you guys get $1,000 UFC Fight Night. Burns versus Brady. Have at it, Bry. You're doing well. Keep it going. What do you have?
So I'm getting a little trigger happy. I'm up a little bit, and I'm going to take some shots here because, it feels like it's been 2 months since I've seen these guys. Give me 500 on Steve Garcia. Minus 185. I like the payout, like the low number. Give me 200 on Trevor Peak. Peak business right there for $200, minus 125. And then I'm going to spread out some dogs here. I'm going to take some shots. Give me Maddie Schnell for $100. Give me Jessica Andrade for another $100. And give me Gilbert Burns for another $100. Close it out with some doggies there.
Nicely done, Bryce. So if you're keeping track at home, 500 on Steve Garcia at minus 185, $200 on Trevor Peak. $100 underdog flyers, if you want to call them that, on Matt Schnell, Jessica Andrade, and Gilbert Durino Burns. Ken Flo, $1,000 with which to wager, brother.
Well, yeah, I'm going to do the complete opposite. BP, get a little complex. Very complex. I'm going to keep it simple here, my man. I'm going to do 1,000 on Gilbert Burns. Let's see what happens. But, not sure I'm as convicted as I was on Tabitha Ricci because I do think it's an interesting style clash. But, give me Burns.
I love that. I love that bet right
Gilbert
there, Kenny.
Burns,
love
plus 154. Ken Flo puts his entire band on that.
I fucking love it.
Bry.
Yeah.
Anything else before we let you go, brother?
Just one last thing. Fucking Houday, baby. Going against your Pats. I don't know what the Pats are going to be this year, but I am ultra confident in my Bengals. Let's go.
Nice note upon
That's
which
it.
to go out.
Yeah.
Check out Brian Petrie's podcast, MMA Takes, buddy. Good stuff. We'll talk to you next week in advance of the big one.
Thanks, boys.
See you, buddy.
Cincinnati Bengals right now 8.5-point favorites, incidentally, on DraftKings Sportsbook against the New England Patriots. Biggest betting favorites in week 1, the Cincinnati Bengals.
Damn.
And Jay just went to Vegas to sign us up for the Survivor pool. And if you don't know how that works, you just pick one team to win, but you can't pick that team again. And most people are going to be on Cincinnati, we assume, in week 1 against New England. Cody's telling me it's now 9.5, and he thinks it's easy money. We shall see. All right, thanks to everybody who ingested both of these episodes this week. We only have one bit of homework for you. People are like, are you fucking serious giving homework? By the way, to my daughter's math teacher giving out homework on the holiday weekend, I'm picking her up at school today after fucking cheerleading practice. What are we doing homework on holiday weekends for 8th graders? Anyway, your homework, if you'd be so kind to just let us know at Anachlorian Pod. Do you listen to the show or do you watch it? Just curious. Trying to sort of get some feedback on audio versus video. That's about it. You can support the program at johnanik.com, kennyflorian.com. We thank every last one of you. And we'll be back with you on Monday. We'll see who reigns supreme between Sean Brady and Gilbert Burns. And we'll spin it forward to UFC 306, Riyadh season, Noche UFC. Thanks to BP. Thanks to Cody Merrill. For Ken Flo, I'm John Anik. Thank you all for watching, for listening. Tell your mom I think she would like the program. We'll talk to you on Monday. Yo, later.
I love this shit.
Soul to the bread, he's cornbread. Cornbread. He's cornbread. Cornbread. Life is so precious, do the best that you can. Keep your hands on the bar, here's the open man. He's cornbread. Cornbread. He's cornbread.